Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. If you are looking at the bearded one, it is Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific, 2 out in Hawaii, about 6 a.m. tomorrow morning in Indonesia, and 9 a.m. to noon out in Australia. Welcome, everybody. I always read out the times for those of you who don't know, because that's how kind of wide our audience goes. People have a tendency to get bored and want to watch my show. If you are looking at the bearded one, like I said, my name is Tom Springer. Welcome to Stuff I Never Learned from a School Book. The site is pretty much designed. I'm kind of giving a recap because this is a new year and this is my first show for the year. It's a show that was originally designed for people who had questions about possible abilities. They wanted to learn more and they just didn't know if they had a place to go to or anything else, because I was the same way, because I only had an awakening about 2 years ago. So I've been doing the show now a little over a year, and it has grown immensely. I appreciate that from everybody. And now it pretty much covers paranormal, cryptid, ufology, witchcraft, tarot. You all saw the openings. We talk metaphysical. We talk time travel. We talk all that wonderful stuff. So that's pretty much how it runs. I finally get to say Happy New Year to everybody, since this is my first show back since the New Year's happened. Hopefully everyone has had a safe and wonderful New Year. But the show hasn't changed at all, outside of my beard being a little more trimmed and looking a little more pretty. But my guests are still fantastic, and they still come on. And the one I'm bringing on now is an absolutely wonderful woman. Her name is Kayla Hartley, and I'm just going to bring her on. Everybody say hi to Kayla. Hi, Kayla.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, so for the audience that doesn't know, I just did a show before this, so I'm a little late coming into this one because I was actually on with the Get Haunted Paranormally Blonde crew, and they were doing a roundtable discussion of guests who actually run shows and how we got involved in it, why we did it, and everything else. So that's kind of how the show was, that they were asking. So that's where I just came from. And then I had to run on here and find Kayla. Luckily, she was patiently waiting for me. And I had to give her a very quick and dirty rundown about how tonight's going to go. And even though I gave her the rundown, I still don't think she's going to be ready for it. So here's everybody saying hi to us.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. So, oh, Jason's over here. Jason was just over watching me on the other show, or watching everybody on the other show. How are you? And yeah, it's funny because how many people commented when I said I was having you on the show tonight. They were like, "Oh, you're gonna love Kayla. She's fantastic. She's wonderful." So, so confirmation that my feelings are correct. And the way I let people, oh, see, even Stuart saying it. Squirrels, see, squirrels.
Yeah.
About the squirrel movements. Regina's popping in to say hi as well. So I always normally tell people how I found you, how I met you, how I was inspired to bring you on. And as a lot of people know, I Facebook stalk a lot of my guests, and you are no different. I Facebook stalked you. Turns out we had a couple of friends who were when you pop up, see, hey, this friend, you have a lot of similarities. So I saw you, and I was like, okay, so let's go see what she's about. And a lot of times I'll click on your profile and I'll start roaming your pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Creepy, but I roam your pictures because I actually pick up your energy off of your pictures.
Mm-hmm.
The energy I received back from your pictures was fantastic. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to Kayla, see if you want to be on my show. It's your fault. You said yes. So that's anything from here on out is your fault. Just so you know. So that's kind of how I met you. Thank you for coming on the show. We have kind of talked a little bit back and forth, but for those people who do not know who you are, what the wonderful soul you are, do me a favor and introduce yourself to them. And as everyone knows, I will ask you, how did you get started and what do you do?
Okay.
Oh, you.
Awesome. Thanks. That's really funny that you were talking about the Facebook stalking and like getting vibes from pictures. Like I really feel that as well. Okay, so the first question was how I got started, right?
Yeah, how did you get started? Well, let's start with what did you do, so that way they know what you do, and then we'll ask how you got started. Because you can say I got started back, but they're like, but what does she do? So my bad for reversing the questions.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So I got started reading tarot, and like I just kind of started stepping out with reading tarot. I was reading it by myself for a long time. And then switched over, like took that leap to start reading for other people. And did that for a while. And in my personal life, I really pursue coaching and personal development. And so I'm doing that constantly just on my own. And I started to notice as I was reading tarot and getting better at it and going to more events, I was starting to see just my own flavor come through, which was a lot more of story, which was a lot more in depth than just general tarot readings. A lot of people just generally when people come in, they want to get tarot readings done. There's mostly pretty general topics that they want to ask about. And I found that it was very, very difficult for me to go deep into the metaphor and the symbolism and the story that was actually coming through in the tarot cards in that like short amount of time. But then of course, if you're advertising for like, a 90-minute to 2-hour tarot reading, people are like, what the heck is that? Like, what's up with that?
Right.
I actually just started at the beginning of, so like a year ago now, I shifted over into doing coaching as well. Where I take on one-on-one clients, and started that last year in the spring. Really enjoyed it. Taking those first steps was really great. Like I really found what I want to do as far as externally with people. But I noticed that I was getting kind of burnt out, and I didn't really know why. And as I put a stop to everything. I didn't want to. I just need to clarify that. I kept getting the hit that like, you need to stop, you need to slow down. Like I did Zen Fest here in Grand Island. We have this awesome Zen Fest hosted by A Higher Plane. And I did that for the weekend, and I was tanked. Like I spent the whole month of April just like hermiting, like hiding out in my garden, not talking to anybody. So I decided that I needed to do some shifting. So actually the last half of last year, I've been shifting it over to where it is just coaching. And then also I'm only going to be taking a few clients at a time. I'm just restructuring everything. But bottom line, I do coaching. I'm a writer. I'm an herbalist. I'm a teacher.
So what do you coach?
Primarily feminine embodiment. So that's helping women to unlock their emotion channels. A lot of like women are very emotional beings, and we are often taught and trained that is not okay, that we need to be one thing or we need to like keep it together. And that's just not the case. I've very much been that woman that like tried to keep everything together, and then I just lost my ever loving shit. So that's what I teach. Like I teach the work that saved my life, basically. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just throwing that up there. So now you're allowed to cuss all you want.
Oh, okay, cool. I see that. I saw that in your episode with Kelly Miller, and I was like, oh, I might need that.
Yeah. That's cool. I don't mind throwing it up because that just gives me the freedom to do it too. So
good deal.
Nikki said she loves that. When you do this coaching, is the initial coming from the client, the student, whatever you want to call it? Is it initial pushback because you're like, this doesn't feel right? When you're trying to do that,
with like regulate their emotions and like open
yeah, I'm assuming that sometimes it would be a pushback because they're like, no, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's definitely. I've had some clients where I've straight up, like we had the first couple of calls or sessions, and I let them know. I was like, actually, hey, like I don't think I'm going to be the right person to teach you this because I go pretty deep, and like I'm that kind of person. I can just see right through to somebody's shit basically, and I will bring it up. Like I'll do it in the nicest way possible. And I'm not going to try to just like, make you cry or anything, but I notice. And then I'll ask questions. And a lot of times those questions are attached to deep emotions.
Yeah.
And some people can go with that. But then in some cases, I've had clients that full trauma response, and I'm aware of that. And I honor them for the steps that they're taking. And also that I might not be the person for them. I'm kind of the deep dive person.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, see, I would try to make them cry because I have 8 older sisters, so that's just how it works. So that's just how it would be. But growing up with them, I really don't think any of them need your course because I got the snot beat out of me all the time. So I think we're good there. They own their power. So, so that's really interesting. So when you were, I'm going to kind of talk all over the place because that's just how squirrel moments happen, and people are all ready for that. When you did tarot initially, and then you jumped out to say, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and work with the public on this." How was that? I mean, when you first started, was that just like, "Oh crap, what am I getting into?" Or did it kind of did you have any that you were just like, "Man, I said it, but I don't know if that's right," type of thing, or how did that go?
So you're specifically when I jumped into just starting with tarot, right?
It's with tarot, yes.
Okay. So I actually had the opposite where I'm very intuitive and I struggled with telling them the real thing. Like, and not that I would lie, but like, just for an example, I had a client that came in and she asked about her dad who was not doing well in the hospital. And I got the very clear message that he was going to pass away. But of course, this was at my first event and I was like, how the fuck do I say that? Like,
yeah.
Like, how am I supposed to say that? And so I did have that, like, I didn't, how did I word it? Like, I didn't specifically say he's going to pass on. I just said he's going to get to a point where he's like back in like a childlike state. Cause that was the card that I had gotten, is that after he moves through this transition, which is death, he's on the other side in this childlike state. And so I just was like, there's going to be a transition and he's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's, I can see that. I laugh because I earlier in 2023, I was able to go up to Nevada, and I ran into my cousin or my niece I haven't seen for like, oh my God, 20 some odd years. And she just lived in the town right over. And I ended up finding her and we met for lunch and we're sitting there and she had no idea that I had developed my abilities just a couple years ago. And it was very hard to tell her because I'm sitting there talking to her and we're at lunch and over her shoulder, I kept seeing this man who looked like her grandfather. And I was like, so I finally told her, I go, hey, I'm like, look, I go, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's a man over your shoulder, looks just like your grandfather. And he's telling me he's sorry he didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And she's like, what are you talking about? I go, it really looks like your grandfather. She goes, well, my grandfather's still alive. I go, I know. That's what's weird. And this was at lunch. Well, she texted me. We left. We hung up for like 2 hours. She left. And like 15 minutes later, she sends me a text. And she says, hey, apparently the mortuary has been trying to get a hold of me. And the hospital's been trying to get a hold of me. My grandpa died this morning. The same one you're talking about that was over my shoulder. She goes, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. And I go, but I'm really sorry. I'm the one who brought you that news. So it was kind of rough to have to give that kind of information, especially to someone I hadn't seen in 20, 30 some odd years. So, I mean, it was, so I can't imagine just doing it with strangers.
Yeah. And that's the other part of being intuitive. My favorite tool to use is the cards.
Yeah.
But those things just pop up out of nowhere. I know the first time I ever saw an EBS, a ghost, I was helping my partner with his moving company and I was taking pictures of the client's basement. And I heard one of my guides was like, there's someone else down here. Again, that's the first time I've ever had that experience. And I'm like, what the fuck? And so I'm like, still just trying to take pictures and I'm like looking around. And then I see it, like, with your third eye, I could just very clearly see the EBS. I could see what she was attached to. She was real pissed that I was there. And so I'm just still trying to like have a conversation with the client and take pictures. I'm like, this is fine. This is okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're good. Nothing to see here. Let's just keep moving on.
Sure. Like, I mean, I love the ghosts and the spirits when they want to come in and they're like, hey, I have a message for you. Can you get this across? And I'm like, really? Like, how do you want to bring that up? Like my grandpa showed up to me and he had some really heavy stuff that he wanted me to say, like apologies to say to my mom and my grandma. And both of them are very much of the persuasion that ghosts, spirits, anything like that is of the devil.
Yes.
And I was like, Pop, like, how do you, like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, you want me to just go up to mom and be like, hey, mom, you talked to Pop lately? Like,
yeah, I hear where that's coming from, because my family is very Pentecostal Christian. And if I would have brought, my mom had no idea. She passed away really before too much happened. And yeah, if I would have tried to bring that up with her, oh my goodness. But what was funny is she was on the other side, and I was talking to one of my friends who's a medium, and she was, there's this lady that's driving me nuts. She won't stop talking to me. And I am also a medium, and I kind of tuned in and I go, oh, that's my mom. And so she mentally told her, hey, your son can do this now. So my mom instantly left her and came to me. But if I were to try to tell my mom that in her life, when she was alive, say, hey, by the way, when you pass over, you're going to be able to come talk to me. She's like, oh, you need to go go visit some holy water and somebody else right now. And I'd be like, okay, mom. So yeah.
It's fun trying to bridge that gap with family who does not do any of this any of work or into this lifestyle whatsoever. And then, family gatherings, I'm just chatting about, the ghosts in my house, and they're like, okay.
Right. Yeah. There's no one else really in my family that knows, but I'm kind of a black sheep, white sheep of my family. I haven't really talked to anybody in my family for years upon years, except for my niece. And but she is pretty comfortable with it. She's kind of the same belief I am. She's very spiritual, let's put it that way. But introducing it to my wife's family is really interesting too, because there's a set of that family who is very Catholic. And so to introduce some of this to them and openly talk about it, I'm still not 100% sure how a lot of them feel about it. I know a handful of them are just like, kind of makes sense with you. But with a lot of the other ones, they really don't talk about it much. They're just kind of like, nah, I don't think so. Or they just kind of turn it away. So I'm not really sure. Hi, Kim. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting to try to, I don't really tiptoe around family. I just say it because that's how it works. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, then they just don't listen to it.
For sure.
And that's what Stephanie's saying here, saying, I've accepted that I'm going to do my own thing regardless of whether my family knows.
Absolutely.
And she says, I know they don't accept this part of me, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's kind of where I am right now, too. And I believe that's where Nikki is. That's my wife, by the way, who's on here saying hi. Nicole Springer, that's my wife. She'll do the same thing. She'll talk about it around family, but it was very interesting introducing, put those two words back to back, this to her mom. So that was kind of the way it went. So hi, Taryn. Wow. And see, that's what Uilani Kule. See, I just say the whole name because I can say it. Uilani Kule. But she goes by Uilani. She says, yeah, I'm the weird one too. My siblings think I'm crazy. And if you can't say Uilani, then she goes by Mary.
Love that.
Thank you, dear one. She says my beard is kicking ass. She hasn't seen it to the full beard. I really had just the kind of the full long goatee with just a little bit of this grown out. But now I've let it grow out to where a lot of kids walked by me during December and thought I was Santa Claus.
Awesome.
Oh, it was fantastic. And a couple of kids actually called me Harley Santa because the bald hair and the tattoos. Oops, there's tattoos on my arm somewhere. Somewhere around here I have tattoos. And so a lot of them call me Harley Santa, which is kind of cool. I like that. Sorry, I guess again, squirrel.
No, you're good. I started thinking about how I wish I had a beard because my dream costume is to cosplay as Gandalf the Grey. And
see, there you go. And I actually just trimmed mine down. Mine was actually a little bit longer.
It's really good.
But I have, like I said, 8 older sisters, so I know that once it starts getting scraggly and split ends, I got to kind of clean it up so it'll continue to grow better. See, I learned a lot. So that's actually nice to have a bunch of older sisters who teach guys how to pay attention to stuff. But yeah, so now it's all nice and full again and all pretty and soft. So again, squirrel. And I have a conversation I'm kind of reading over here because Taryn Kerper, my my secret love is over here. And she popped in to say hi, but her and my wife call each other wifeys. So I'm watching the wifey conversation happen on the side. So again, squirrels. When you moved to what you're doing now, when you're doing the coaching and everything else, is this something that I already heard you mention it, but I want to make sure the audience understands this. This is something that you can do online. This is something that they don't have to come in for and be face to face. How long is something like this? How long is something like your coaching? Is it a day? Is it a month? Is it a year? I mean, what are we looking at here for trying to get coached up for people to break through and say, I own my power. This is me type of thing.
For sure. That's a great question. So typically coaching containers, I use the word containers, like that's the space. Those are the parameters of like what my program is that I'm taking you through. And when I say program, like I have certain things that I do, but it's a very loose structure because I'm your coach. Like I'm there to do, like, if I'm thinking, I'll get some intuitive hits of like, oh, maybe she wants to work on this for this session, but then we pop up and something else has come up and I'm like, oh, well, let's follow that. Like I'm all about like the following the trails and just see where it goes. So to answer your question, my containers that I am about to relaunch, they've been dormant for a while. I haven't been taking any new clients. They are 4 months because typically 4 months of sessions, and it's 4 months, 3 calls a month with like WhatsApp, like Voxer support in between. They can message me and reach out. And typically 4 months is when people start to experience. 3 months is when they experience their first breakthrough, which is awesome, but it also can be very challenging. And so I'm guiding you through that like peak climax experience. And then there's an extra month of like kind of come down integration where we're talking about it. That way it's not like, oh yeah, crazy experience. Okay, now we're done. Like we're not going to do that. We're going to go up and then we're going to go a little bit down.
All right. When you get trying to think of the best way to say this. When you get your guidance advice, that's probably a good way to say that. Is this coming from your spirit guides? From where are you gaining this information that you're like, okay, I know that I can create this program to help others and how to go about doing it? Where did you gain this knowledge?
A lot of it is my own experience. I've invested thousands of dollars in my own personal development, just for me, not even like business coaching or anything like that. It's just me. I said that my life, like shit hit the fan. Like I was repressed and I was like keeping it all together. Yeah. And I did. My whole life imploded about, when was 2017? How many years ago was that?
6, 7? Okay. 7? Yeah. Now we're in 7. So yeah. 6, 7 years ago, my life completely imploded and I was losing it. I was circling the drain because I had no skills. I had no help. I was on my own. And I got to a really dark point where it was like, either I'm going to get out of this or I'm going to die. Right. And I made that choice that like, okay, this is not where this ends for me. I've had enough. Like I'm changing it. And so that started this process of just like, okay, how do I regulate my emotions? Like, how do I take care of myself? A big part of my issue was I was strung out I was having chronic pain that nobody could diagnose. Nobody could figure out. I was strung out on painkillers. I was like on every kind of like mental health medication and I was losing it. And I'm just like, fuck this, I'm done. And I quit everything cold turkey. Don't recommend that. I do not recommend that, but that's what I did because I'm a stubborn bitch who's just like, nope, done. So I quit all of that and I just started the path toward holistic healing. Yeah. And it started with things like tarot cards and using that for personal development and learning Reiki. Just, where a lot of people usually start out, like crystal healing. I went to go see I don't know if you can hear my bird. Yep.
Okay. I actually went to a craniosacral therapist, and she was the first one to tell me that the pain I was having was not in my back and neck, it was in my heart. And so that was my first clue to be like, okay, this is emotion. Like our body is so much of words. All the words want to come out of my mouth at the same time.
Words are hard sometimes.
Yeah, it's like they all bottleneck. Our bodies, we hold emotion. And I've heard the term like the body keeps the score. I think that's even the name of a book about like holistic healing, of how emotions will get stored and trapped in different areas of your body, and then it manifests as physical issues. Yeah. So you asked me what I'm tapping into, or what I'm I forget how you worded it, but basically what I'm tapping into, what I'm following is the person and their energy and what's hidden in their body.
Yeah, it was basically tied to what gave you your information. Is it spirit guide? Is it source? Is it whatever that kind of put you on it? But you said it was you. You made the conscious choice to say, nope, that's it. I'm done. Yeah. But I've done in a positive way towards time. And so I'm going to stop right there for a second, because I want to do this public service announcement. This would be a fantastic, so the more you know type of thing for the old people in there who know the commercials. Because that's very important for people to understand that they have a choice. A lot of people don't understand that. They think the way it is the way it is, and there's no other way around it. That's the one good thing that you always have. You always have a choice. I don't care. You can have no money. You could have, no whatever, but you always have a choice. And that, and even if you think that choice is taken away from you, and I hate to bring it this way, but if you are in a situation to where even you are faced with death, you have that choice on how you die. Yeah. So it's still a choice that you get to make. So it's very important for people to understand that. And you chose to step out of the situation you were in and to basically heal thyself and make it better. And then you didn't stop there. You took it to the next step to help others understand that same situation and start to heal them. So that's a very powerful message for people that they need to understand that is taking place. So thank you for that. So, and I was kind of squirrel moving it in the back of my head when I was hearing your bird, because I was hearing your bird and I was thinking, man, how jealous is your dog right now that she can't be in there, but your bird is. So
pissed. I actually just got a bird today. I've been really wanting one. I finally just went and got one. Yeah. And my dog, that's why she's poking her head in here, because she's like, can I come in? And I'm like, no, get out. And so she's pissed.
So for those that don't know, beforehand, Kayla's dog kept wandering in and out, and she finally just said, you need to leave because I'm getting ready to do the show with Tom. And the dog kept turning around like, really? Like looking at me like for help. And then she actually went out the door, and then the door pushed open, and I swore it was spirit. And then all of a sudden you see the dog's head poke in like, how about now? Am I good now? So it was kind of cute to watch the dog try to interact and try to go like, hey, don't forget about me. I'm right here. So
yeah, we call her the diva because that's exactly what she is. Like it is all about her.
Yeah. So explain to people, what kind of dog is she?
She's a boxer.
She's a boxer.
Absolutely. She's got that bushy face. She's real ridiculous, but we love her.
She's got that nice brown color, that darker brown color. So very good. When you, again, so many squirrel moments, so little time. When you started, I'm going to flip the same question I asked you for tarot, but I'm going to flip it on this way. When you started helping others kind of guide through owning their strength, owning their power for the women, at any time did you go, am I steering them the right direction? Or is this really what they need? Maybe there should be doing something else. Because I know you talked about, well, maybe you're not the right person for them. And I understand that, but is there anything that you, sorry, I saw the question pop up. I'll get to that in a second. But was there any time that you were just like, I hope I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not sure?
That's a good question. I'll have to think about that for a second.
While you're thinking of that,
go ahead.
While you're thinking of that, I'll ask you this question. Okay, Kayla, I got to ask, what year did you graduate as a Husky?
Oh, I was supposed to graduate in 2012, but I lived in Hong Kong for a short stint, so I got to graduate early. And my guidance counselor was like, "Don't do that. It's not going to look good in college." I'm like, "I'm not going to college. Peace. I'm out." So I graduated in 2011.
Okay. And she asks because she actually grew up in Central City. So,
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. See, there she is. She said, "Oh, she's a baby. I'm from CC." So, yeah.
I'm a baby.
And which is even funny because earlier today, while you're still thinking of your answer, don't forget. Earlier today, I was speaking to someone who was from Aurora. So kind of that. So for people who don't know, I just mentioned 3 relatively smaller areas. Where you're at, Grand Island is a little larger, but
St. Laborie. I do not live in town. I'm not a person.
Yeah. But the 3 areas we talked about: Central City, Aurora, and I'm just going to say Grand Island because some people may know that one. 2 of them are relatively small, but they're right here in central Nebraska where we're at, or 2.5 hours away from where I'm at right now. But that's why that conversation comes up, because it's really interesting to see how we all kind of tie together and how close we are.
Yeah, for sure. I love how small the world is.
Yeah. And she says she lives in a small town not that many would know of. So, yes.
Yeah. I get to have all the chickens in my backyard. It's unincorporated. Like, that's my vibe. I've had people ask me, "Are you going to move to Grand Island?" I'm like, no.
I will tell you. So I grew up in Napa, California. So a lot of people know what Napa is because that's where wine country is. And I still don't drink, which is amazing. But there was a town just outside that a lot of my friends lived in. It was called Grayton, California. And it was funny because the sign literally said you are now entering/leaving Grayton, California, all on the same sign because it was so small. It was amazing.
That's pretty much St. Laborie. Like, you know that we're there because of the gas station on the side of the road, and you keep going.
Right.
For sure.
Okay.
So your question, you asked if there was ever a point where I was like, "Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Or am I on the right track?
Am I doing it correctly? Am I helping them in the right way?" Yeah. So
there were several moments like that. That is actually what's kind of led to where I'm at now, about to relaunch my new and improved coaching containers in the way that is totally unique to me. I'm so pumped about it. But it's been quite a process to get there. A lot of hit and miss, a lot of it is questioning myself. And I'll tell anybody who has intuitive gifts, your biggest block is your brain. Your biggest block is your brain. So for me, like, I started to feel that, especially when one of my first clients was a man, and he was drawn to me and he's like, "I want to hire you. I want to work with you, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Oh, I was not expecting that, but all right, let's go with it." We started going with it, and I very quickly realized that, like, my genius is not in the masculine. It's just not. I understand the masculine. I can get there. I can bridge the gaps, especially the coaching. My personal coaching that I'm in now is really deep into masculine and feminine dynamics. But as far as coaching and teaching, I am not the best person to be guiding a man through his emotions. Just how it goes.
Have you ever had a client say, "Hey, can you do couples?" Has anyone ever asked you that?
Like, I have not had anyone ask me about couples yet. But that's interesting that you say that, because that's actually what my partner and I are gearing up for. Because we both have been in coaching for the last several. I've been in coaching for 3 years. He's been in it for 2. And that's what we're going to be stepping into next is joining forces together and teaching couples. We're really excited.
It's almost like I had an insight to that. Weird.
It is. Like, you picked up that wave.
And it's funny because I saw your partner earlier, and he has a wonderful dark black beard. So yes. So
I actually convinced him to get that beard. He was like, had a really short beard for the longest time. I was like, "It'd look really good if you let it grow long." He's like, no, it doesn't look professional. And now he's actually transitioning out of his business. So he's like, I'm going for it. Great.
Yeah. Mine was just pure laziness. I just got tired of trimming it down every week or two. So I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. Let it go. So yeah. It is. But he did have a very nice beard. I even complimented on him when he walked in. That was the first thing I noticed. When you make the transition, I'm curious because there was something that I kept seeing from you, and I want to know what it means, because there's something that you always mention is called "witch in the weeds."
Yes, that's what I started with. That's what I started with as a tarot reader.
Okay.
And that's actually what I got my LLC under. And then through my transition this year, it's probably going to have a little bit of a name change.
Okay.
Witch in the Weeds resonated with me from the beginning because witch was the first step, like terrifying step I took in identifying and reclaiming that for myself. And it was terrifying because I'm a born and raised Southern Baptist preacher's daughter. So like I knew as soon as I stepped out in that realm, like shit might hit the fan.
Yep. I've been to a handful of those churches too. So yep.
Yeah. So that was a big thing for me to step out and claim that word for myself. And then in the weeds, it was funny because I was in the midst of my, like, healing is a very messy process. Like if anybody doesn't know that, if you think healing and enlightenment is supposed to be, you know, rainbows and unicorns, it's really not. Like it's like the opposite of that. Yeah. So I was deep in that. My partner was holding space and I was just bawling and I was just a mess. And I was like, and he was like trying to help me. But at that point, I was not in my feminine enough to surrender to him helping me. And so I was like very feisty about it. And I'm like, I don't need your help. Like, I don't need you to tell me. And then I kind of just broke down again. And I was like, I'm in the fucking weeds. Like I am in the weeds right now. Yeah. And that really struck me, really resonated with me because I was already feeling that phrase because I'm an herbalist. And so where I really started was with realizing that the weeds in my backyard were actually highly nutritious and very medicinal. So when I was swapped out my meds, I swapped over to doing natural medicine and herbs. So like it kind of came together where I was like, I'm an herbalist and I'm in the weeds all the time, wandering the woods. Yeah. And then I'm in the emotional and somatic work. And so I'm in the fucking weeds. Like that's
just it. Yeah. Literally and figuratively. So yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
Which is good because that's a great segue to where I wanted to go with this. Because like I said, I am very good about Facebook stalking and researching people. And which is where I want to go next, because I actually want to talk about your witch side of you. And I don't know if you're comfortable talking about it or whatever else, but I don't, you can say whatever you want. You can tell me, sure, I'll talk about it. You can tell me, no, go FO, whatever else you want to do. But I'm good with either way. But if you're comfortable talking about it, what kind of brought you into that? What made you say, you know what, I'm not a Southern Baptist church girl. I am more of the spiritual witch that I'm going to learn more about the herbal remedies. I'm going to learn, and what do you do with that? I mean, are you strictly medicinal, or are you someone that people can go to ask for like love potions and spells and crap like that? So I'm curious. I want to know. Curious minds want to know. So.
Yeah, those are awesome questions. And even as you're asking them, I'm like, oh, those are big questions. Like I could really talk about those all day. So starting with the first one of how I like started with can you rephrase the first question?
you went from your Southern Baptist girl to I'm going to be a witch girl.
Yeah. So that was actually a very slow and awkward transition, to say the least, before I really came out as that. There was like a whole year of like backstory out, like away from everybody, like just kind of in my own space. That was really when I was diving deep into the healing, the emotion regulation, understanding like how to release the trauma and just the junk from my body.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of accidental. And for a while I was really going back and forth between like, oh, no. Like it doesn't have to be witch. Like it doesn't have to be witchcraft. Like it's something else. Like it's just natural or whatever. Cause I was really hung up on that. Like, I mean, I was indoctrinated from the time I was walking. Like right. I remember being a little girl, and instead of going out and playing with all the other kids, I sat with my dad in his like 2-hour men's prayer meeting. Like I was that kid. So that was like stuck in me. And so as I'm like making this transition, I'm seeing where it's going. And I'm like, wait, I don't know if I can do this.
Right.
It was very much like an awkward transition. And there were times where I would even like, I had a hard time even saying it to my partner for a long time, where I was like, I feel like I'm drawn to this, and it was a little ridiculous. Like I just laugh at myself and just, it's so funny, the process of how much fear there was. It was all based in fear and the fear of judgment and rejection.
Yeah.
So I finally like took that step. I read a book, a really amazing book called Witch by Lisa Lister. And I posted it in my Facebook about like just how profound it is. Because it talks about how really every woman is a witch, whether she wants to claim that or not, like that's totally her prerogative. But really every woman has some sort of innate power and mysticism to her. That's how we're made.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure I'm not like getting off on too many.
Hey,
because we could talk about this.
Welcome to it. Come on, bring it on.
So yeah, it just really became something where I was like, okay, this is more about the energy of it. I don't necessarily, at first I kind of got caught up in like, and like they talk about, you'll take quizzes and stuff to see like, are you a green witch or are you a gray witch or a white or whatever else? And at first I kind of got caught up in that. Like that was like interesting to me. But the deeper I dove, like I am an avid researcher, I absorb information like a sponge. And so the deeper I went down the rabbit trail, I started to realize that those were just kind of extra things.
Yeah.
And so it's really about the energy. And I actually heard it two different ways, that witch is a woman in total control of herself and a woman in total creation of herself, which to be in total creation of yourself, you do have to be in control of yourself. So they both kind of go hand in hand.
So I've been witch wrong all along because it's supposed to be all capitalized because it's an acronym.
Yeah. So. That's when I saw it, I was like, yep, that's it. So that's really how I came to it. It was kind of a back and forth process. I know I was absolutely terrified when I actually came out of the broom closet on Facebook and stuff, because I knew my dad was going to see it. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's just been a natural progression. And then you asked about like what I get into as far as like witchcraft.
Yes.
For me, it's actually more about like I do the herbs, and that's kind of its own topic. So I'll get to that next. The biggest thing for me is energy work. And that's like everything that's in the body, the somatic, soma meaning in the body, and embodiment, literally in your body. And that's why when I tap in, when I go into a session with a client, I will go through kind of my own breathwork exercise to step out of my own body, so to speak, and let it be the channel for somebody else's energy. Okay. So then when I'm actually on a call, like a Zoom call, typically with a client, I am feeling what they're feeling. And I take people to through a somatic process where they're closing their eyes and they're breathing with me. And I'm prompting them and asking them questions. And they're like bringing up the first thing that comes to mind, kind of like a trance, but not that deep.
Okay.
And so they're narrating for me what's coming up. And typically I'm right there with them. I'm very visual. So my eyes are closed. I'm breathing with them and I can see what they're seeing. And I can often, because of how nerdy I get with story and psychology and Jung and all of those topics, I can see the metaphors and the symbolism and connect the dots. And then I'll ask them the question. I'm like, I'm curious if this is a possible translation. It's still open to them. They still get to decide if it resonates or it doesn't. And then they'll either say, yes, that resonates, or no. Like, for an example, I speak best by examples. I had a client recently for my new story alchemy session. And we were going through, she was feeling certain things, certain emotions. And I first felt to go into her solar plexus, checked there, and it wasn't what I had initially thought. And so we just bounced up to her chest space. And that's where we found out that she had like a whole repressed inner child inside of her heart space. And as she's going through, she's like, well, I'm encouraging her, narrate as it comes up. Like, don't first thought, best thought. Don't try to brain your intuition.
Right.
And so she tells me, she's like, well, something comes up, but it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, it does. What is it?
You just have to say it out. Yeah.
So she tells me about, she's picturing Cinderella and the fairy godmother. And I just immediately was like, okay, that's her inner child that feels like a Cinderella and is seeing her adult self as the fairy godmother coming to rescue her. Wow. And that resonated with her immediately. She's like, oh, that's why. I've been trying to figure it out. And then we also went, me being me, we went a step deeper into realizing that not only is she the Cinderella and the fairy godmother, but she's also the stepmother as well. She's also her own villain.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, is just going straight into somebody's energy, straight into their emotions, their aura, their story that's locked inside their body, and just being able to narrate that for them so that they can rewrite it.
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's so fun. I love it.
Okay, now tell me about the herbal side.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I got you. We're good.
Thank you. So the herb side, I actually got started because I was really interested in, like, okay, all of these plants are in my backyard. I forget which one started me on it. I feel like, I don't remember. I'm not going to try and remember. But I got started on it with some plant that it was like, oh, this plant grows in your backyard, and you can, it's plantain. You can chew it up and, excuse me. And you can just pick a leaf, chew it up, and put it on a bug bite or a sting or something, and it'll just, like, no problem.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting. What else? Again, my curious mind, I'm like, what else is there in my backyard? So I started down that path of just wanting to know what plants were first medicinal. That was my first interest, because I was just so over it with big pharma and hospitals and all that stuff. So I started looking at medicinal properties first, and then that kind of branched off into, like, foraging and then edible plants. And my brother-in-law, I love him dearly. He's an Aries, so he's very spicy, and he'll just, like, throw out at me. He's like, well, you eat shit out of your backyard, so we're not listening to what you say. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started, and very typical what you would call folk herbalism, which is where I'm looking over at my extensive herb closet.
I see that. Yeah. So.
So it's like making tinctures, like blending together your own teas for certain things, infused oils, which then become salves and lotions and other products.
Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah, Aries are spicy. Love those Aries. Actually, it's interesting because I'm an Aquarius, and typically with almost all Aries I've met, we have amazing conversations. So maybe we should definitely talk some more.
She would love to.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. I love talking to people. And that's one of the things that I've gotten, like, kind of tripped up on, is, like, I'll just message people back and forth. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then I'm like, oh, wait. Okay. Like, we go so deep down the rabbit hole, and oftentimes I, like, information overload. That's why I try to keep it to, like, okay, coaching container where we can, like, work through it.
Yeah.
Back to the herbs. So I started with the folk herbalism and just using herbs for myself, for my family, with my kids. I started blending teas, and then I started selling that at events when I would be doing tarot readings and stuff like that. And then gradually, as I've gotten deeper into story and symbolism and energetics, I started to follow the work of a woman named Asia Suler. She's amazing. She also identifies as witch. And she talks about more of the I'm thinking of so many words and I can't pick one. More of, like, the energetic stories of plants. Okay. So I went less from me wanting to go out and identify plants so that I could harvest them and create a product from them, and more about me just wandering in the woods and seeing which plants I could find and just sitting with them, just feeling their energy. That really was a turning point for me 2 years ago, when I went out and I was really struggling with my mother wound. Just really going through a lot of healing with that, and it's not easy. And I needed to go out to the woods. That's my favorite place to go, where I don't have to be anything for anybody. I can just wander the woods, and I often follow the game trails. I just do what I want. And I went and I was drawn to a large stand of motherwort, and I immediately recognized it and just went and sat with it. And I did not have the urge to harvest or do anything. I just sat with them, and I immediately started to have an emotional release and started to cry and just, like, let it all out. And motherwort is actually used for grief and heart issues. It's really potent for that. And so just finding that in the woods and being in that energy was healing all by itself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, Stephanie posts, my favorite part of herbalism is the amount of glass jars I have hoarded and filled with herbs.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could show you my whole like I converted my closet into all shelves, and so it's just full of glass jars. My partner's like, "Stop saving glass jars," and I'm like, "I'll tell you what to do."
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that when you started, you talked about that you were identifying plants that you could put into like sap. So I'm prior military, um, and I spent most of my time walking our paths to go to our locations.
Mhm.
And we had to identify the plants so we can eat.
Yeah.
We would also identify the plants, like if we were scratched or stung, whatever else, that we can put on it to help pull out the sting or help pull out the poison or whatever else.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something that we had to learn as military. So it's very interesting. Not every military person has to learn this, um, but I think it would be fantastic if they did, because it would really help just in their everyday life.
Yeah.
But for those of us who were on the road or out in the field so much, it was a huge benefit because you can't always have an EpiPen with you, or you can't always have whatever to help get rid of, especially when you accidentally not me when you accidentally realize that you have put your bed down in a bed of red ants, and how to help get rid of those stings and the bites and stuff like that, help pull some of that poison out from the red ants. So yes, there's some stuff that we have gone through too that I never even paid attention to it. That to me it was just second nature. They taught it to us. This is what we used. So it's really cool to hear. And I know Sarah's on here as well. Sarah Sophia. She's also another witch, and I had her on my show too, and she's a fantastic soul too. But I know she does the same thing, and it looks like Stephanie's doing the same thing. Stephanie and I are actually a part of another team, and we've been working together a little bit lately. But I didn't know that she had this part of her as well. So it's kind of cool to just on this show how much I learned from others, and I always try to explain to people too that I love my show because you're here as a guest, you're explaining to people, and they're learning. But I learned so much from you guys as well. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But leading to that, I have another question, because this one I kind of knew, but not as in depth as I think I should have known. But you mentioned there's different colors relations with witches.
Yeah.
You need to talk to me about that.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say. Oh, when you were talking about just, I was just relating to you when you were talking about like how you learn so much from your guests. Like it's a back and forth thing. I will tell you that is why I love stories. Like I love hearing people's stories. I used to be a CNA, and that was my favorite part of the job, hands down, is going in the rooms with like usually the cantankerous old men and like talking to them and like getting them to just tell me their stories. And then I could get them to do whatever I wanted, like to like getting them to bathe or eat or whatever else, because I got them engaged and I wanted to listen to their stories. And it was fantastic. All the things that I heard, like it really is. If you take the time to actively listen to what someone is saying and what their story is, what they're telling you about their experience, you can learn so much. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then as far as the different like classifications, and I'm not even the best person to like give you.
I'm asking because I'm curious about something. And I don't want to bring it up until you kind of give me a little background on that. So
Okay.
Information in this, because I'm very curious about something in my head. So
sure, yeah. So I've heard a lot of different things, and a lot of like organizing them by colors, or also like just different like what's the word I'm looking for? Like specific talents. Like I've heard of like a tech witch. I am not one of those. Like whatever that is, I am not technologically savvy. I am in the process of like hiring somebody to do all of my tech stuff because I just don't want to do it. Right. So there's tech witch, like there's just all kinds. Like really, you could take like, let's say, I love books. Like the rest of my office is full of either herbs or books, and I could call myself a book witch if I wanted to, like, because I'm just.
So I will tell you, I'm more interested in the colors.
Oh, and the colors. Okay.
That you guys identify yourselves as. So
As far as the different colors, it really goes off of, from my understanding, it's what they're practicing. For
okay.
me, I guess what I would identify with the most is be a green witch, because I am the gardener. I'm the one walking out in the woods all the time. I'm the herbalist. And so that's like, there's plants all over my house. That would be what I would call myself. And then I don't remember if it's gray witch or what exactly it is. There is one that's, I think, specific to like energies as well. But I have found, well, first I'll let you ask your question first, and then I'll say what I'm going to say. I can be sneaky too.
So yes, you could be sneaky too. So it's weird how many times I see so many similarities and synchronicities between things, and I want to know if the witch category falls in that, because we have our angels and we have our different colors related to our angels. Green is associated with the healing. So now you're talking about the gardening and the herbal and stuff like that, which is a form of healing, which associates with the green. Are there a blue witch that is identified more as a protection witch? And that's the blue angel. The white witch, is that the purity of the whiteness and everything else, like the white angel. And but it also falls the exact same colors. What a lot of people don't understand, those colors also resonate around the world for cultures that have beliefs in dragons. The green dragon is the healing dragon. The blue is the protector dragon. So I want to know, do the witch colors follow these patterns that I've seen with so many different other things that follow the color patterns?
Yeah, so I'll just straight up tell you, I have no idea when it comes to all the witches, because like other witches kill plants. Oh my goodness, that's funny. When it comes to outdoor plants, my sister and I have had this conversation that she has so many exotic indoor plants. I'm like, how do you know how to take them? And I joke that like, if it grows outside and it's native and probably invasive, I can grow it.
Right. If someone else identifies it as a weed.
yeah. If it's called a weed, if it's considered a weed, I can grow that. I can grow that shit. So yeah, as far as the specifics to witchcraft, I'll just be honest, I haven't gone too far down that rabbit trail specifically. It's a super interesting one, and I'll tell you why I didn't really go down that one very much. I originally, when I first identified as a witch, I started joining Facebook groups and stuff. And what I found there was a lot of women who were trying to like love potions and like cord cuttings and things like that, like general spells. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't typically do that because for me, it's more energetic. So when I'm doing cord cuttings for people, I see it, I visualize it, and I like Reiki energy would be how I would do that.
Okay.
I don't typically do a whole lot of like for my any rituals, witchcraft rituals, I just do for myself. I don't really do for anybody else. Anyway, so I was in these groups and I was finding that then there was a big thing around people like using voodoo dolls and putting people in jars and hexing people, like hexing your ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend and things like that.
Right.
And I was like, really? Like, is this real life? Like, people are really doing this? Like, and I started to feel, well, first I felt a little irritated because I'm like, well, that's why witch has such a negative connotation. That's part of it. Part of why it has a negative connotation is because we're putting people in fucking jars.
Yeah.
Trying to cause harm to somebody else.
Yeah. Way too many people watch The Craft. Yep.
Yes. Just like, no, that's not what this is about. I mean, I guess in their realm it is, but that's not my realm. And I was noticing that a lot, and like just lots of comments and being like, oh yeah, do this and add this, and like just not nice things. And it just did not resonate with me at all. And I'm like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I just do my own thing, really. So I don't know about the colors of witches, but what I do know is like that the language of color definitely speaks to me. And when you said green dragon, like the dragons and stuff, again, that's another rabbit trail I haven't gone down just extensively. But for myself, I have, whenever I've gone into hypnotherapy and sessions for myself, I've always found a blue dragon.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I have a blue dragon, and like when I tap into like the essence of my soul, it's blue, like dark blue.
And I can, and that's something I can tell you after the show why you have a blue dragon, because I can already see your blue dragon and I can already hear from your blue dragon. So I already know why you have a blue dragon. That was instantaneously. As soon as you said I have a blue dragon, I was kind of surprised, but then it says this is why she has a blue dragon. I went, okay.
Oh,
So
I love that. I'm so excited.
So yeah.
And then, but it's interesting because my actual, like my aura and my energy when I'm working with people is always green. And I just associate that with love. I know that with my own personal work, I know that my best skill and the way that I work the best with people is with love. And that's really, it's universal, but you have to get to that point of unconditional love.
And that's the healing that you're doing, which is why it's green. So yes.
Although I did, okay, so you talked about witches. For the first time in my life, I came into contact with a witch who was actually channeling really dark energy. And it was a lot. Like there's a difference between like the witches on the Facebook groups that are like, put him in a jar. Like that's like kind of a smaller energy of more their own fear and their own pain being projected back out.
Yes.
With this, there was a witch that had actually had been using a person to be a vessel, a conduit between her and her like dark, I'm going up, but really it was down, like this dark energy. And I was helping him like cut that, like separate that. And it was a lot. Like that was the first time where I was like really battling it out with somebody where it was the first time I had ever met, and I didn't even meet her. That was the first time I felt another witch that had power equal to mine, but the opposite, like the dark energy. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Nikki and I had an unfortunate run across a dark witch, and we had to, it was not fun, and I had to do some work to help do some work to help a friend out. But I don't do what you guys do. Mine was literally trying to attack me directly, so I had to handle it. But yes, it was definitely something that was not fun to deal with.
It's not. And I remember tapping into her energy, and she was just like, she was so smug and triumphant. She was convinced I could not cut that cord or like pull him back. And so I did. And I just like, I was very slow. I'm very methodical. I wanted to make sure it was very clear. I had to ask him for permission, because if there's any part of him that still wants that, even if it's a subconscious shadow part, I can't do anything about it, or it will come back. So as I was going through this process, I finally got it cleared, and then she was pissed. Like at that point, she's pissed, and she's throwing out all kinds of crazy energy and like dark energy. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this right now? Like, I can't just like back out and like just leave it with her just losing her shit everywhere. And so I had to ask, and I tried several different things. I tried mirrors, like putting her up in mirrors so that it's reflected back to her. That just made it worse. I'm like, okay, all right, not doing that. So then I finally got the idea of just send her love and wrap her in a love bubble, and that'll neutralize any kind of darkness. I mean, darkness and what we call evil is always fear-based.
Right.
So, and love is the antithesis to. So that was how that connected in my head. And it was like, just throw her in a love bubble. And so my green electric energy, I was like, okay. And so I just wrapped it up, and it was done, neutralized. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, done.
Well, that was better than I thought. So yeah. And Sylvie has two parts. She said, to piggyback on Tom's question, is what he's referring to also about reading auras, because auras deal with colors, but only reading auras, the term is aura weaving.
Oh, I love that term. I love that word.
So I will tell you, Sylvie, that I can actually read auras. I can see your aura. The funny part is I can see your aura color, and I can actually see your stages of aura color, because you have one that is constant, which is your true energy aura. But then you have multiple layers of different aura colors, and they really radiate based off of your emotions, feelings, what you're going through at the time. So colors will change. You have one constant, and the others will change. For those people who don't do that, that's how auras work. So I'm interested about that too, because I know I can see aura colors, but that doesn't tie that person to that color all the time. Unless it's your soul aura, what I would call your permanent aura, then that is your color. And now the funny part is I can tell people, hey, your aura is this color. And people go, great. What does that mean? I go, I don't know. I can only see your color aura. You have to go look it up what it means. So
That's funny. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. You said there's a difference. No, I have a question. You said there's a difference between the soul aura, which is like more constant, and then the different changing like external aura.
Kind of like your aura, kind of like your vibe aura. Your high vibration. Yeah. Is your colors because you're in a down, depressed mood? Those are going to change your aura colors compared to if you're in your heightened state of happiness or excitedness. You're in a good place, whatever else, then those auras colors will change as well. So
gotcha. Yeah. So the way it's been hard for me to like. I've never been in this kind of realm, in this kind of community before. This is like the first 3 years of me entering into this. And so being able to talk to people who get what you're talking about, I'm like, oh, hey, awesome. Okay, so let me ask you. So I typically, when I see people, there's usually two colors I see. There's one color that's like internal that I sense as like their soul color and texture. And then there's one that's like when they're doing energy work, or when I'm tapped into their energy, then I usually see a certain color.
Yes.
So like my partner, his energy I can see it all the time, but like I know that his like what I would call his soul color is yellow.
Yes.
But then his actual energy, like when he's doing Reiki or tapped into me or something, that's purple.
Right.
He has a purple aura. But I don't know. That's my thing.
So that's his vibe aura that he's putting out.
Mm-hmm.
When he's doing the Reiki, that's his vibe aura. So he's in his vibe mode right there. So his is purple. But when you're looking at his soul aura or his internal aura that you always see, and you said that was yellow, then that's his. I will see it radiating almost like an outline along your skin.
Interesting.
And then anyone else, I will see it off of you, like a couple inches off of you. So it just depends on what. So you're probably seeing it internally. Will I see it along the skin line? But I believe we're seeing the same thing.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I see it internally, almost like a stone or something inside of their chest, inside of like their very essence. But then when they're tapped in and doing the like more of the aura energy, it does look like just kind of a bubble around them.
Yeah. So Sylvie's asking, can people use trickster energy and change auras to confuse you? Maybe to other people, but to me, no. I can honestly tell you what your aura color is. I don't care what kind of trickster energy you're using. I will see your true auras because it will be your true emotions or vibe that is attached to you at the time. There's no way to hide that from me. Others, possibly. I don't know why I am able to see that. But I have seen to where I've watched somebody and I focused on somebody and I will see a color morph. And once I get a steady color, that is your true energy color that's coming through. Your true vibe level that you're at, or your true vibe color that you're at. For me, I don't know why that is. I don't know what gave me that ability. And it was funny. The way I learned that I could read auras is I was literally on a call like this with a couple of friends after a show. And all of a sudden I went, hey, I can see your aura. And she went, shut up. And I went, no, really? And she goes, well, what is it? I told her. And then she goes, well, what's my husband's? And I'm like, it's this color. And she goes, crap, he's right. And she's like, how long will you be able to do that? I go, 10 seconds. So I go, it just popped up. Like it just showed up. And she was like, oh, okay. Well, that was interesting. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how they just appear to some people.
And that's fascinating to me that like your part of your talents and language is in auras and things like that. Where for me, the color language comes through when it comes to emotions and wounds. So yes. That's again, part of that healer archetype is that I can, when I'm tapped in with a client, like I'm more likely to be able to tell you what your emotion is and where that wound is, who that wound comes from, like all those different aspects.
Yeah.
Well, that's where then I'll have people that's where they get kind of upset or they're confronted and they're like, no, that's not me. Like, oh, cool. Like, you're not ready for that. That's okay. We can move on to something easier. I'm totally fine with that.
We will scroll this direction for a while till you're ready to come back to this. Yep.
Yep.
So Kathy's asking, do you make your own essential oils or do you purchase a certain brand?
I actually used to be a Young Living rep. I am no longer that. So whatever oils resonate, I would say find the oils that resonate for you. Like some brands you're just going to feel off about, and some you're going to be like, no, this feels good. And I'll just be honest, I very rarely use essential oils in my practice anymore. I'm pretty natural, like anything. I have to be able to make it myself, or like I just want to go experience the plant myself. Like I didn't know that Young Living has an oil called Melissa. And I was like, well, what plant is that? I remember when I was a rep and I was like, what plant is a Melissa plant? And I like didn't understand, but I wanted to know. I wanted to recognize and get to know the plant that it came from. And it wasn't until later that I realized it's Melissa officinalis, which is lemon balm. And I love lemon balm and I use it in tea. Like my kids love it. That's the one that they'll drink, or one of the ones that they'll drink. It's very, very calming. I've made tinctures out of it. So that's typically what I do. Instead of using like the plant's essential oil, I use it in a way that I can make it for myself.
Well, there you go.
I do still have some essential oils, and every now and then I'll use some like for my own skincare stuff, but that's about it.
Yeah. And I noticed that, honestly, I don't know if too many guys use essential oils at all. It's mostly females. So I don't know if that's what it's, if that's branded that way or if that's what it's designed for.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, if it's, I understand it's branded towards women, but is it something that's designed for men to use and they just don't know it? I
mean,
hey, look, there's your next line right there. Line right there. Essential oils for men. I can talk all night long. I got tons of them.
It's that time of year, so I've got the crud, what everybody calls the crud, where I've just had this like gross cough for like almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah, so many people have had it. It's crazy how people at work are just doing the same thing. Yeah, Stuart, that's exactly how I feel. Skincare is just getting the dirt off. That's about what it is for a guy. It's like, do I stink and am I dirty? Okay, so I'm gonna throw some deodorant on and I'm gonna shower. That's about all I need right there. So, my skin's dry, don't care. It'll fall off after it flakes off, no big deal. Yep, that's about how
part of my masculine aspect as well, because like when I'm going into the woods, like I'm getting all kinds of nasty, and then I'm finally getting to a point where I'm like, okay, like if I'm gonna be in the woods getting gross, then I need to like just go ahead and go in the garden and get gross, and then shower when I'm sufficiently disgusting.
Right? Yeah. So that's good to know. And it would be interesting to let Nikki wander out our backyard and go try to find plants and stuff. But like I said, we live on a lake, so it's kind of hard to walk out our backyard without falling in the water. We really only have about 20 feet of grass, and then it goes to sand, and then it goes to water. So not a whole lot of areas she can go play with. And I say that because she talked earlier about how she can kill the easiest plants really fast. Right there. She's brought plants into the house, and I'm the one who has to take care of them to either bring them back to life or to keep them alive. So that's something else that happens as well.
That's me. I will say that I used to kill a lot of my house plants. And I would be kind of annoyed with myself. I'm like, gosh darn it, like you're a freaking herbalist and like you can't keep your spider plant alive. That's supposed to be one of the easiest ones. And it wasn't until I really shifted the way I approach herbalism and plants and started slowing down and feeling into them and their energy and seeing them as their own sentient beings, that then I was like, oh yeah, I understand what this plant needs to survive now.
Yeah, it kind of takes that. You need to understand that it is an actual living organism that needs to be taken care of that way. I believe that I think crystals and stones is a much better way for Nikki because she can't kill those. There's if it loses its charge, then she can go charge it again. So if it needs to be cleansed, she can cleanse it again. So that's a much better way for her. Probably is for a lot of people too. So right now I keep throwing up this banner, this Kayla Hartley, facebook.com/following the heart.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm going to put you on the spot here. When do you believe your actual website will be up and running?
I actually have 3 different calls tomorrow to figure out who I'm going to be hiring to set all that up for me.
Okay.
So I have 3 different calls with 3 different amazing women who, like, that's their work, is doing the technology stuff that I could teach myself on YouTube, but I don't want to. And it's not going to look the way that I want it to look because I'm an amateur and I'm just trying to muddle my way through it. I would rather spend my time.
I'm an amateur and I built my page, so
yeah, you know what? That's amazing. That I was saying in the backstage how amazing when you're like listing off all the things that you do and what you link to. I'm like, oh my God, I need help. I need help with that for sure. Because I'm trying. The last website. I don't know if you probably saw my last website that I had up. And I designed that all myself. And it looked fine. I liked it, but it also took so much work on my part. And I have so many other things that I would rather be doing that I'm just like, I'm going to delegate that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm a one-man band for this. So everything I do here is me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just got to that point where I was like, you know what? I would rather be reading. I would rather be writing. I would rather be having a badass conversation. So, So to answer your question, the website, I'm hoping to have everything ready through January, possibly into February, to be ready to restart in March, like with the spring energy.
Okay.
I'll be opening up my one-on-one containers. I've rearranged everything. I'm opening up my one-on-one containers again, where it's just me and a client for 4 months. You hire me for 4 months at a time, and we go through the somatic process. We go through like story narration. Every week I'll give you a journal prompt and a somatic, like a breath work or like a nervous system regulation practice. Because we're doing both at the same time. We're helping you to like really be present in your body and work through those wounds and what's blocking you. And also what's blocking you has a story there. Like there's a story, there's something that happened, and that needs to be acknowledged and appreciated before it's going to be willing to release. Right. When I first started this work, I really thought that shadow work was all about like, eradicate all the dark spots in me. And that's just not the case. Like it is not at all shadow. Anything that is in our shadow, it's not just things that we don't like about ourselves. It's also things that we think other people won't like about us. And so we just have that. Yeah. So it's really about opening up those channels, building that confidence that like, hey, this is me and it's okay to be me. So that's the one-on-one containers will be opening back up with the spring energy. I'm only taking 4 clients at a time because I really want to spend a lot of my time writing. I have several book projects I'm working on. So I'm only taking 4 clients at a time, and one of them is already spoken for from a past client. And then I will be doing a group coaching situation where I have a group of people that are on either Voxer or WhatsApp, probably WhatsApp, because that's easier for people to just join for free. Where we go through like each week, I give you again the story, the journaling prompts, the breathwork practices, and then I'm available for like voice messages and messaging like back and forth, where I can just check in my free time versus like set scheduled calls. So that's another option is the group coaching, and it's way more affordable. It's an easier price point because you're not getting all of my time all the time.
Right. It's not more the one-on-one. It's more the group, like you said. So
yeah. And then I am going to be doing, I went back and forth on this if I was going to do one-time sessions, just because if someone hires you or someone wants to do a session with you one time, that's great. but like we can only get so far. There's only so much going to come up and happen from just one session.
Right.
But those will, I did decide to just go ahead and do some one-time sessions. They're going to be at least 2 hours. So somebody booking a session with me, like, be prepared for some deep story activation.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's going to be ready like March.
Yeah. And all that can be found once it gets up and running right here, right?
Yep. I'm actually going to not be doing so much social media. I'm going to be funneling people into like an email list. So that way I can send out more emails that are just private, that are more concise. Like posting constantly to social media sometimes feels like it's kind of getting lost in the algorithm, in the translation. And so
but you'll be showing the process of when it's going to start, and you're going to come up here. So people can now go out to your facebook.com/followingtheheart, HART, not HEART, HART, for people listening, and be able to follow you there and know when your page is up and what you're doing next and stuff like that. So fantastic. So that's what I want people to understand, is that even though your site's not up yet, if you go out to this facebook.com/followingtheheart, HART, then they can start following that path of you getting ready to start opening up all of your containers, your classes and stuff like that. So
that's right now, Instagram and Facebook, social media is the best way to reach me, because everything is still in the backstage, in the back end.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So I want to make sure that people understood that. Okay. Well, I think we're at a good stopping point.
Yeah. Good.
So I want to thank you for coming on my show. Yeah. I asked you to stay backstage, so stay backstage. Stuart says, I think she would be great for my wife. Not that I don't need help, but I'm too much. So yes, he is. I agree. Stuart, I agree with you on that. So we agree on something. But again, thank you for coming on. I so much appreciate having you on here. I know a lot of people really appreciated this too, because I noticed all the comments and everything else. I'm going to put you backstage. Don't leave, because I'm going to shut down the show and I'm going to come back and talk to you. Everyone say bye to Kayla. Bye, Kayla.
Thank you so much.
Yep, and I will talk to you in a second.
Sounds good.
Okay, everyone, that's the show. Welcome back to the new year. We started off with a fantastic show with Kayla. I'm so happy I had her on. My next show is with a lady named Teresa Shantz. I actually am bringing her on. I met her at Holistic Fest here in Omaha, and she was nice enough to send me her book, and we will be advertising that, as well as talking about her and what she does and that wonderful person that she is. Next week, again, like I said, she will be here 7 p.m. Central, just like normal. I did want to share out with you also that there is a show that I will be doing right here this Wednesday. So in 2 days, 7 p.m. like normal, I am going to have on the PERS, a lot of the PERS team that I'm a part of. For those people who don't know what PERS is the Paranormal Existence Research Society. And they are going to be talking about not only our team that I am lucky to be a part of, but they're also going to be talking about the upcoming Orlando MegaCon and what's going to be taking place there. It's a great show. You're just going to want to tune in to hear all of us stupid comments I'm normally going to make as normal. Feel free to come in, chime in, talk with us, ask questions, all that wonderful stuff. Again, that is this Wednesday at 7 p.m., so it is an off-cycle night, but I hope to see a lot of you here. Actually, I hope to see everybody here. But I know that sometimes Wednesdays get busy. I'm just lucky enough to have you guys here Monday, because y'all part of my family. Much appreciated. Next Monday, 7 p.m. Central, Teresa's going to be here. We're going to do this all again. I'll actually still be here next Monday. I am going to be doing a lot of traveling come up in after that week, but I'm still going to do my shows even though I'm traveling, so we won't miss anything there. But you'll just see a different background, not my Superman backgrounds. But other than that, as always, have a very safe week. Much love. I hope to see you all Wednesday. Oh, I lied. One more thing. Y'all know where I'm found at, right here. Stuff I never learned, stuff I never learned, stuff I never learned, blah, blah, blah. And stuff I never learned at gmail.com. But guess what? I started doing a podcast. Yep, I sure did. I've only put out 2 of them so far. They're just very random, and it's not a show like this. It's actually just me. rambling for 10 to 20 minutes. And it's talking about lessons I've learned, things I'm learning. My last one was all about elementals, earth, fire, wind, water elementals, how they run, what they do, everything else. It's about a 15-minute podcast. You can find the listing if you go out to my page. I actually listed them all out there. I also advertised them all out. So if you're interested in listening to my short podcasts, please feel free to do that. I would love critique and comments on it to let me know what you want to hear about, how you feel the podcast is, whatever else. Other than that, now I can start to say, stay safe, have a wonderful week. Much love to everybody. And I will hopefully see you Wednesday, but I will hopefully definitely see you next Monday. Other than that,